I haven't done one of these in a while. I'm a little nervous. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TFT, my TFT patch 9.24 patch note rundown. As with all or most of my patch note rundowns, I like to cover what I think about the current meta before I jump into the patch related stuff. Currently, I would say that there's a couple different ways to play the game. The most common way to play the game is whether you hyper roll certain comps, whether it be like predators, woodlands, lights. You hyper roll something, or you end up pushing level 8 really fast because the power of Singe 2 and Z2 and Nami 2, the power of those three units are like super, super broken. And so right now I feel like there's less value on the mid game unless you're playing in super aggressive lobbies. And there's a lot of units that I think are really, really strong. Generally speaking, I think since the start of the set, the trifecta, or I guess the duo of Annie Yorick are incredibly powerful, and literally the two most contested units in every single game I ever play. On top of that, PD is really obnoxious in the sense that it just blocks out all crit items, and I think it makes itemization and just playing the game really shitty. So I heard they changed that, which is really, really good. I'm looking forward to that. PD is definitely something that alongside PD, there's a lot of problems being unable to run like 6 of a type of composition. Let's not even talk about 6 rangers. They're unplayable on the current patch, and hopefully on this patch there'll be a lot of buffs. But you can't play 6 assassins through the PD. Increasing crit chances makes it more likely for you to lose the game as opposed to win the game. Additionally, everything but like 6 lights is pretty much unplayable. 6 mages has fringe case uses, and I think that 6 mages is kind of a 6 synergy that you want to look at as like a good example of like what could be a good situation to do if you end up high rolling certain spatulas, for instance. I don't want 6 of 1 synergy to be the most common way to play the game, but rather like kind of a useful out in case you end up just getting like all of 1 like synergy, and then you have like a spat for it that works really, really well. But yeah, so I think that generally speaking, a lot of the early game is good, and I think what the game struggles at is kind of making the end game more, like the mid and end game more relevant, in the sense that like making people have alternate options to push as opposed to just running for the chase 5 cost units because they're just so OP. Anyways, let's keep going. So, greetings, tacticians. The Soulbound SENNA LUCIAN alongside with a Mumu headline patch 9.24. We're also giving a boost to some of those underperforming origins and classes. Our hope is that going deep into compositions that allow this type of investment, Inferno, Light, Rangers, and Berserkers are viable, even if not always optimal strategies. Last but not least, we're decreasing the effectiveness of early hyperrolling by reducing the scaling of several tier 1 champions who are stronger than intended later in the game. We think there's more to do, work to do here, but a clear outliers we're looking to hit immediately this patch. Great, a lot of good stuff. So, Soulbound 2, it's a 2 synergy. The first Soulbound unit to die will instead continue to fight as an untargetable spirit until all other Soulbound champions are dead. And the 2 units are SENNA, tier 2 unit, Shadow, Soulbound, Piercing Light, fires a beam at first ally, dealing 50 to 150 magic damage, and buffing their on hits for 5 seconds to deal additional damage. So I think the latter is similar to Nami, and the positioning requirement for this champion is going to be rather strict. You want her in the backline somewhere, and she's able to target multiple of your own allies to shoot through, as opposed including enemies. So interesting positional champion here. Lucian tier 4, light soulbound ability of culling, fires 2 times plus 2x attacks per second, bullets in any direction over 4 seconds, dealing AD, applying on hits, dealing 40 to 100 magic damage. Pretty much a huge Giant Slayer abuser is what it sounds like. You just throw Giant Slayers on him, and his culling will just murder people. It's really, really interesting, and this means a lot because I think right now lights are really relying on hyper rolling Vayne to hard carry their game, and not being forced to hyper roll lights is really, really interesting, and probably pretty good for the origin. So I'm pretty happy about having another like kind of 4-star carry that you can look for that isn't just very brand-ish. I'd say with if PD gets nerfed, I heard it was having the different carries like Kha'Zix, Brand, and Lucian, as well as potentially buffing Rangers of Ashe and Twitch, make a lot of I guess a very diverse amount of possible in mid and late game carries, and I think that that's really really nice. So you don't have to just all in on finding summoners every game. Amumu tier 5 Infernal Warden is deals. It's just the ulti, right? With 2, 3, 4 hexes, stunning them for 2 seconds. Okay. Amumu is something that set 1 had a lot of, which is strong CC oriented frontline units. And in this set, we're missing kind of that explosive action. Like when you saw like a great Gnar ulti, or you saw a big Sedge ulti, or you saw like a humongous Cho ulti. Those are things you're like, holy shit, or you're like, God damn it, you Cho AI, why would you do that? You know? And I think that part of the reason why people complained about positioning so much in the first set and looking to expand the board is that you had a lot of these champions in the game where essentially you couldn't escape Sedge. Like Sedge would hit front to back line and you couldn't position around it. And then we go into set 2 and we have a bigger board, but there's less stringent requirements on positioning because there aren't these super big AoE game changer ultis. And honestly, I kind of miss them. I want them to come back because visually they're cool. And I think that like I'm not even forced to play around that much in this set, positioning wise, even though I'm given more options to. So I'm really happy to see this. The fact that it's also an Inferno and a Warden. I love playing Wardens, and Inferno is missing that front line / I guess extra unit to kind of push 6 Inferno to be rather relevant. And so unless you end up Infernoing Singed, which is like the super top end for Inferno comps, they were looking for something like a Mumu to make them relevant. Anyways, I'm really excited for a Mumu, and I'm kind of interested in both of these as well. Let's keep going. Update level bar. Hovering the buy XP tooltip now displays how much gold you need to hit your next level. Okay. Now displays your current XP and progress. I like the bar. I think it's cool. Okay. TFT was shipped out in an uncompleted state. When you look at the polish between Legends of Runeterra, where they hired like these insane artists and everything's like all the animations are there, all this stuff. That's like a completed game. TFT right now is working on it. So every patch will get like updated stuff, UI stuff that helps out a lot. So like stuff like this is stuff that I'm like, wow, you know, this is clean, it looks good. Stuff that you wish was in the game immediately, but you're happy that you see that they're doing. So I think this is very clean, very cool. Displaying the drop rates for different tiers based on level is also really nice. Something that was already available given other add-ons. I think Overwolf had it in their add-on, but something that you could see in the game is exactly what I want. A good example is like I have a lot of cheat sheets out about this game in terms of like synergies I always put out for new sets, but that's something that I eventually want to fade away because the only need for it early was because they didn't have that type of information in the game. But the more information like this stuff that you could see, the better it is to be able to like just not need secondary resources to be able to actually play a game well, which I think an all-encompassing game it's something that a game like that needs, you know? Anyways, let's keep going. They flipped okay, this is gonna annoy me. Flipping the buy and XP refresh buttons is gonna be really annoying. I wonder if the keybinds are flipped as well, because if they are, you will mess up, like at some point. I will mess up. Maybe I will just rebind them immediately, but maybe I'll just learn to do it without it. Keybinds are the same? Thanks, Mort. Okay, so I won't mess up then. I don't click. Return to home and draft buttons. So this is really, really important too. So when you're in a carousel, there's a return to home button. For me, I've already bound that. So I use tab and spacebar to kind of show the carousel on my enemies, and I press spacebar to go back toward my board. But I get a lot of people asking me questions when I stream and being like, how do you do that so quickly? So having it visually on the board, helpful as well. Okay, let's keep going. Traits. Berserker. 6 Berserkers now grant all Berserkers 25 AD. That's pretty good. 25 AD is the equivalent of just under 2 BF swords. It's a little extra that like you're looking into. I think I was looking at someone telling me that there's a 6 Berserker player in the top 20 of NA, and it's really, really interesting. I think he stopped running as much as soon as people started fast aiding. But 6 Berserkers just having the extra bonus for the 6 just makes it a little bit more viable, and that's what I'm looking for, like a slight bit more viability to kind of make this good. Right now, if you're curious about what Berserker also does, I learned this from Lothar when I was at All-Stars. So the interaction between Shojin and Hurricane is that The additional bolt of Hurricane will proc your Shojin mana regain. So every auto will give you, instead of 18%, 36%, which is why the combination of the two items is very powerful. I had it last game as well on my Nami. Berserker acts the same way on the cleave. So if you Shojin someone, let's say a Jax, and he cleaves someone and he's able to hit multiple targets, he will regain multiple amounts of mana back. That's what I was told, at least by him. So it's like a very interesting thing that maybe the value of Shojin on stuff like Jax becomes better. I don't know what else would use it Renekton in. Something interesting to keep in mind. Anyways, Cloud ended up getting buffed a little bit. I think rather than buffing everything, I would have liked them just to buff the 2-piece and maybe the 4-piece. 4-piece is impossible without Cloud Lux, right? But the 3-piece seems kind of underwhelming. I guess Cloud in general, the only thing I don't like about Cloud is I just don't like the RNG dodge chance sometimes. But I guess with PD removed, a 15% dodge chance, given that most of the abilities in the game do magic damage, does feel kind of weak. I think taking in Mystic to deal with magic damage feels really good right now. Like I like playing a lot of mages. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, here's Mystic. But I don't really feel that way about physical damage dealers. Like right now, I feel like if I don't have the PD, there's nothing I can tech in to be able to beat them. I do think Cloud is definitely something more of a counter for like stuff like Berserkers or Rangers, which aren't very popular right now. So it's probably why I feel like they're weak, is because both of them suck ass. But if they start seeing a lot of play, especially Rangers, then Cloud is definitely the thing that they want to be putting in. Electric buff here is really interesting. I think Electric is already very strong, especially at 4, and the 2 is really, really strong early as well. In the mid game, it's a little bit difficult because getting 3 is not possible without Zed, and getting 4 is not possible without Lux, right? So I could see a buff to 2 being viable. I don't necessarily think that it needed that much more to work with. I think if you are playing against a lot of Electric players, you tech in Mystic to deal with the Electric burst. And it's a very common counter tech option. I'm not opposed to like the level 2 buff. I'm surprised they ended up buffing level 3 as well. But it's okay. It's not a big deal. Inferno, effects trigger on spell damage. Effects trigger on spell damage and crits. So it was trigger on every unit in the game has a 25% chance to crit. So it triggers on every 1/4 of every auto attack as well, making Infernal damage generally overall better for everything. Okay, and on top of that, they had to lower the bonus damage, but now it's over the course of 4 seconds instead of 5. So it's not that bad. And Hex, it lights more than 1 Hex on fire? What? So sometimes when you're playing Infernal, stuff ends up moving a lot, so like you're keeping people still is a really, really big priority. So in my mind, when they introduced the Moo up here, one of the biggest things is that it keeps people stunned for 2 seconds in like the area, which helps a lot with Infernal to be able to stack up a lot of damage over time. The fact that you're given multiple hexes now that trigger a lot of damage is like, you're just gonna light the whole board on fire, which is probably pretty fun. Like I don't mind seeing that. I think it'll be pretty funny. Yeah, I'm down. I don't know exactly how much stronger it's gonna be. I don't know exactly how the hexes get lit, like the corresponding hexes around them. I'm not sure. There's no clarity here on what gets lit. I do approve of them increasing the bonus damage over the course of a lower amount of time, and I understand nerfing the damage because of that, especially when you're lighting on multiple hexes. I just have to see this in action before I'm able to see more of it. But I do really like them increasing Inferno to crits, so that you're able to kind of play around Infernoing like crit oriented units. Like let's say, for instance, what are the highest things you can do in the game right now? Highest damage you can do in the game right now is a Kha'Zix crit. So if you stack Inferno on Kha'Zix, that used to be shit before. Like, it didn't even work, right? But now you're guaranteed a crit on every ulti with Kha'Zix. So let's say if you have Inferno crit Kha'Zix, what happens? His hexes are explosive, right? He'll leave hexes that do hundreds of damage, which is great. Like, that sounds excellent. So it makes it so there's more possibility than Inferno spat more units than before. Light, so the light attack speed bonus increased. I am a big fan of this because I think lights are kind of weak right now. I do think, though, maybe Lucian makes light a lot better. So I'm a little bit worried because I think Yorick is already broken, like super busted unit. Usable by every single player in the game on pretty much every comp in the game. And so, like, if Lucian becomes super good, we might have a problem. But for everyone else getting other stuff, I'm not opposed to giving light a little bit because I do think they're relatively weak right now. Ocean ended up getting their 4-cost nerfed a little bit. I do agree. I think generally speaking, it's too easy to transition with 4 Ocean in the mid game. Especially on the Ocean maps, you just throw 4 Ocean in. You don't have to play mages. You just play random shit. And the extra mana matters a lot. Originally, I was worried about the Ocean being not good enough. And it turned out the Ocean being a lot better than originally expected. Rangers. So Rangers suck. And I don't even see I don't see any Rangers. God forbid 4 Rangers. The worst thing about Rangers is that each individual unit is usable in other comps. So, like, you'll see Ashe used in Crystal Predator. You'll see Twitch used in Poison comps. You'll see Vayne used in Light comps. You'll see Kindred used in Shadow comps. And you'll see Varus used in Shadow comps as well. But you'll never see 4 of them together. So they ended up buffing 2 and 4 Ranger. And then 6 Ranger has a chance to activate 2.5 times attack speed bonus, which is nuts, by the way. So it looks like they buffed Rangers quite a bit. I think even with this in mind, going 6 Rangers is maybe suicidal. I would love to see what if they buffed individually the Rangers. I think the individual Rangers may need a little bit extra to be actually effective. But that's more down here. So we'll see that when we get there. These are definitely all good things because Rangers were so underplayed that they were never played together. So again, remember when I said that 6-piece synergies were really weak? Seeing stuff like this, even if it's a little bit too strong, is better than not because they can just tone down the numbers later, right? It's a 2.5. All right, maybe it's BS. It's too strong. Tone it down to like 1.5 later. I just like that they're adding additional stuff. Shadow. With the addition of Senna, we're restructuring the trait from 2-4 to 3-6. Fair enough. It makes a lot of sense. Now a 3-6 bonus. Shadow champions now gain bonus damage for 4 seconds. Resets when they participate in the takedown. Okay. It's 70% and 140 as opposed to I think 40 and 80 or 40 and 100, 40 and 90. So it's actually quite a it's just another 6 set synergy, something that you probably won't be able to get without Shadow Lux, right? So the top end is more explosive than it was before, and the bottom end is more interesting because you're forced to put 3 units in. It's going to shake up Shadow a lot. I think right now the 4 Shadow composition is very popular and very good. 40. There's 6 Shadow and Lux. Oh, shit. It's Kindred. Oh, there is. Because you always ran 4 Shadow and took out Vhagar for Yi. But now they're adding Senna so you can actually top end the 6. Oh, that's really interesting. But sorry, I cut myself off. The current top tier meta Shadow comp is the 4 Shadows with Mystic in at 8, and you tier 3 the Kindred. So maybe that changes now. Maybe it stays the same. I'm not really sure. But it's definitely very interesting. It definitely kind of make it so I don't think there will be a 6 unit Shadow comp that's top tier. Similar to how a 4 unit Shadow comp was very top tier without a Lux. But maybe there's a lot more splashable 3 Shadow comps out there, which you weren't really splashing 2 Shadow before, even if you hit the Yi. Anyways, let's keep going. Summoner bonus duration and health goes down down a little bit, up at 6. Remember, as it said, 6 synergies were weak. They're buffing 6 synergies, nerfing the 2 synergy. I'm all for this. I think summoners are too strong. They clog up my screen too. I want to see less of them. I think this with maybe some nerfs onto Yorick Annie would be very, very nice to see coming up on the champions. Anyways, let's keep looking down. So tier 1, Renekton, Maokai, Ivern got, I think, triple nerfed. There's the nerf, there's the nerf, there's the nerf. Cool. I think they probably need to be nerfed. They're all part of the one egg roll comp, and it's very, very, very powerful. I do agree that tier 3 units are super strong. So seeing all 3 of these getting nerfed, I'm pretty happy about. I'm surprised Zyra missed getting hit because I think Zyra is probably one of the best units in the game. She's a very clear transition unit that you push into late game consistently with Morelos. So surprised I didn't see her, but everything else I agree with. Tier 2, Nico got her attack range increased. I actually love this. They didn't buff her damage, they just made it so she stopped killing herself. When I ran Nico before, sometimes your units just kind of run and then die, like run too far forward. So Nico having more attack range actually matters a lot. Like I'm so happy about this. I can actually backline her without her like feeling suicidal. Yasuo attack damage going up. This may not look like a lot, but it's actually really nice. It makes everything better. So originally in my head, I wanted to make a Yasuo an assassin because what happens is his ulti is individual strikes. He just autos another time. So each of those individual strikes could crit. So he would crit like 4, 6, or 4, 5, 6 extra times. That would just one shot people. So any kind of AD multiplier on an ulti like Yasuo, which works off his actual AD, it's good. I think Yasuo did need a little bit of buff for sure. Both Cloud and Yasuo getting buffed here is really helpful for him. Aatrox's mana got decreased. Definitely helpful. Even though he got buffed, he gets buffed every patch. This is he's entering like kind of a scary territory. I remember old Aatrox from set 1, where because he was a demon, right, he was able to gain a mana really, really quick. And eventually Aatrox just got to the point where like he just slapped people. Like it wasn't even close. People just put Gunblade on tier 3 Aatrox and he just like murdered people. So I don't know if Aatrox is ever going to get to that position as a light unit, but he's definitely getting enough buffs to where you have to seriously start considering him as a standalone unit just for being strong. Sivir attack damage increased. I do think Sivir having the extra AD is nice. Sivir is such a cool unit. I talked about this with Dog and the developers as well at the TFT Summit. Like Sivir is a great unit. It's so cool. Not only to build around, but also to see it action. She's got traits of like old gunslingers. You can use a bunch of items on her. She feels super cool to use, and I don't feel like she feels unfair to play against. I really like that a unit like her is in set 2. Not only to help itemize, but also like just a cool unit to have in the game. I really like her. I think her using a small AD buff is actually nice. It probably won't do that much, but she is a little bit weak at tier 2 and really, really strong at tier 3. Soraka got buffed here. I'm actually really afraid of Soraka. She's already the most played Mystic in the game right now because flat mana denial is insane, and at 60 base mana, being able to do that is nuts. So I don't necessarily think she needed any more buffs. I think she's definitely playable right now. She's, in fact, maybe overplayed. And if anything, will only be more contested now because she won't run up and kill herself like old Nico used to do. Yeah, I'm kind of scared about this. Tier 4. Okay, so Annie got nerfed. Cool. I thought the Hafu by Annie, and the way that she described Annie to me is Annie is Lone Druid from Dodo Out of Chess. You have this super unit. You have this small unit that summons a super unit, and Tibbers is the super unit. So I think that right now it's too powerful. Literally, if you find Annie at like level 4 or 5, doesn't matter where your comp is, throw Annie in because the Tibbers is just way too good. I think nerfing that is really good. It makes the summoner top end at 2 4-star units weaker, which I think needs to be in the game because you don't want to be playing with any other top end, any other frontline than those two. So those getting nerfed. Brand ended up getting nerfed a little bit. I don't necessarily think that he was that good. He's not that good right now in the game, but maybe due to the Infernal change might be better because of that. Malphite ended up getting his tier 2 ulti buffed. Thank God, by the way. I was literally watching other high elo streamers and they're like, okay, don't ever buy Malphite 2. You save 8 gold and you only get 50 or 75 damage at 0.5 seconds stun. And I looked at that, I'm like, wow, that's the most depressing thing to hear. If you don't want to upgrade like a 4 cost unit, that's just depressing. So more damage, always good. And it makes his mage better. A lot of people ask me, Scar, why do you not like mage Malphite? Well, for me, the base damage was so low, I could never justify it. If you wanted to mage a unit, you would always mage like Annie, or you'd mage like Annie if you had summoners, or I would mage Kiana, because the Kiana has base 300 and it goes like 500, 700. So Kiana would just like slap people in the back line because she has huge damage. and huge base damage on her kit. So now at the very least, I can justify maybe Meiji Malphite more. And Meiji Malphite is probably one of the most common ways you'll end up playing him into the late game. Yorick, Ghoul health. Oh, they nerfed. They didn't nerf Yorick. Wow. They buffed his 3 costs, which I think actually needed to happen. I saw someone hit 3-star Yorick and they didn't win the game. I was surprised. They actually looked useless. So I'm actually happy to see them buff 3-star Yorick, because you should never get that unit. If you do, congrats. But wow, they didn't nerf him. I'm surprised. Really surprised. I think he's a very I don't mind powerful units at 4. I think similar to Annie, he's too good across the board for too many comps. So yeah. At least we got one half of the pair nerfed. Maybe it's okay. Tier 5, Taric total mana decrease, Singe AP damage goes down. Thank God for nerfing Singed. Singe damage, this unit is way too good. Like, way too good. And so nerfing it again, realize this is the second or third Singe nerf that they've had to do, because the champion is able to just crush the game with a Morellos. Right now, when you get to a Singe on your comp, you sell whatever unit has Morellos because it's shit, and you give the Morellos to Singe because Singe is God with it. And that being a strategy, I feel like it's just really stupid. Like, the fact that maybe more consistently able to get more damage from Singed than like tiered or 2-star other units is really annoying. So I think nerfing the base makes a lot of sense. Taric total mana going down, I actually approve of this a lot. I think Taric is actually slept on as a unit. Let me phrase that immediately right now. I think he, as a secondary unit, he's very, very strong. You'll see it a lot in Crystal Predators, that he ends up being the top end for that comp, and he's like a monster in that comp. And a lot of times, one ulti is all you need. So I don't necessarily think Taric needs that many buffs. I just think like if the other 5-cost units get nerfed, he will naturally start standing out, becoming more of a standout unit. Especially if Rangers see more play, like Ashe Taric. When you're running like a 6 Ranger comp or a 4 Ranger comp, Taric plus what would be the top end? Taric plus like a Singed ends up being your top end tanks for frontlining in that comp. Taric especially. And so he'll naturally see more play if Rangers are more viable. I guess maybe now you play a Mumu, right? Because you end up getting 3 Infernal from your 2 other Rangers. So I guess if a Mumu and Taric will be your new top end frontline at 6 Rangers, and at 4 Rangers you could still go Crystal with Taric plus Poison, which was very common before. Cool, let's see it. Lux tier. Lux should be a champion that makes you at least consider pivoting to a combat here, even if she isn't directly part of her game plan. These boosts should push her more toward her direction. They end up buffing her a little bit and lowering her mana. I do agree. I think Lux is really... People just put her in for synergy, and she's not really a damage unless she's Shadow Lux. And even then, probably not. So I think giving her a little bit more damage for a 7-cost unit, whatever, she deserves it. Items. PD not only negates bonus damage for critical strikes rather than dodging an entire attack. This change will not be reflected in the PD tooltip to patch 10.1. Praise the fucking Lord. This is the most important change of the entire patch. If you are playing the game at all or watching streams, you'll know PD is rampant. And PD is just too good across the board. This is because everyone has 25% chance to crit. It PD actually negates 25% of the damage people used to do. This also makes 6 assassin top end impossible to play, and probably because of this, because assassins have had to be balanced around this incredible item that negates assassins. Assassins will probably be too powerful. Like, I definitely see a world where like Kha'Zix just starts taking over games, and because of that, maybe Crystal starts making a comeback, and like a lot of interesting things happen. But for the better health of the game, PD being reverted like this is excellent. Additionally, one of the most powerful combinations was PD plus Iceborne, and the dodge ended up affecting the board as well. I do think Iceborne is still an ultra problematic, very, very big problem, and probably needs to be removed at some point in the future, or toned down still, because the kind of combination with 8 in Cloudborne and 8 with old PD were too good. But for now, let's not really complain about it. I think that combination got nerfed as well. But this is great. This is like one of the best things they can do for not only the current game, but also the future of the game. Reduce the likelihood of class items appearing on the dragon. Whenever I read stuff like this, I never know what this means. I don't know what percentage it went from before and what percentage it ended at later. So just gonna skip this. Enabled a bunch of items to drop from Dragon's Rift Herald. Again, now only Thief's Club, Force of Nature, and Titanic will not drop. I don't know what that means because I don't know what didn't drop before, but it's 10% down, less. It's equal to all items. Now it's a 10% chance. Okay. So, okay. Huh. 10% chance to get a class item. All right, thanks, Mort Dog. I don't know the significance of this either, I'll be honest. Not even the statistics, I don't know what it means for the game. Giant Slayer damage increase is actually really interesting. So back at All-Stars, the one thing that was really interesting is like, I think Giant Slayer is most of the times hard to play, or hard to use. It's something where unless you're running like 2 desert, you're not really getting that much value out of it, and it's hard to have a good person like hit Giant Slayer for stuff. At All Stars, the Chinese winner ended up using Giant Slayers on Kog'Maw, which alongside Predator allowed it to be fairly good. And I think Giant Slayers with Lucian, with the new Lucian, sounds like it'll be Beast. And maybe Giant Slayers with like currently with Rangers are still going to be pretty good. And with Rangers maybe coming back, you might see the value of Giant Slayer actually being pretty good right now. So this is an item to maybe watch out for. They didn't buff it by that much. And they didn't end up buffing a lot of the Rangers individually either. So I'm not sure if we'll see a lot of Rangers, but it's definitely something I want to try. Okay, what else? Bug fixes. We fix a rank bug, we're getting 0 LP for 4th will result in a demotion. Okay. Getting 4th will always grant 1 LP. Got it. Fix Talia's tooltip to say she targets a random enemy and to include the stun duration. Thank you. For people that know, her tooltip says she targets the unit with the highest mana, which I know is false because every time I played Lights, she would hit my Vayne 2 times in a row and kill her. So it was infuriating. So it's a completely random unit. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Fix a bug where every Lux except Light have 10 more base AD than intended. Wait, that's funny. Fix a bug where Yasuo took too long to reach his Hex and reassume attacking as his R ended. Okay. Fix some of the loading screen tips to be more up to date. Got it. Fix a bug where Twitch's spray and pray would stop working after cast if he was equipped with Rune's Hurricane. Didn't even know this existed. But that's because no one puts items on Twitch right now because, yeah, it's not really worth it. Probably a problem for the strength of that unit, actually. Fix Renekton's ability to properly say deals magic damage. Got it. Fix a bug which occasionally Skarner's shield would persist across rounds. That's interesting. Fix Infernal damage zones being created when Zyra plants expire. Zyra plants have a lot of bugs. Like, Talia ultied the Zyra plant the other day. That was really weird. Fix a bug where they continuously applied red buff for Morello's burn for more than 10 seconds would cause the anti-healing to no longer affect the target. Okay, so I asked Riot how the Morello's bug ended up being in the game. And they told me that this has always been in the game since set 1, but it was just really hard to do this bug unless you had a unit that would constantly reapply Morello's nonstop. Maybe a unit that maybe a unit that ran around and poisoned your units that had something like a Morello's. And so apparently it wasn't even that easy to spot unless, yeah, turns out unless Singe is a very top tier unit and you find the bug happening in every game. This is the reason why. So a lot of times, if you're seeing like tier 3 Renekton kill your endgame when you have a Morello's, it's because your Singe with Morello's is brute forcing the anti-healing buff, and Renekton is getting full healing in the late game, which shouldn't happen anymore. This is a really, really important bug fix. Fix the bug where you get double the health from Earth Hexes. Okay, so what bugs did they not fix that I wanted them to fix? Okay, the one thing I would like is I would really like. Oh yeah, they didn't fix the Kindred PD bug, but I guess it doesn't matter because the PD no longer dodges, so the bug should automatically be fixed. And I use the word should, even though I know how spaghetti works, and sometimes it might not work. The other stuff is Oh, this isn't a bug, but something I wanted to them to address original at some point is that when you look to tab around to the enemy board, I can never use that in the late game. I can never tab around and look at their boards. You always have to click their portraits, and the reason is because when you tab into the late game, you always tab into dead players, and that sucks. Like, I have to tab through 4 or 5 dead players' boards to hit the boards that I want to see. So I'm hoping at some point like that gets like, I don't think that's a bug, but I'm hoping at some point that gets fixed. Aside from that, I think that units fumbling around to attack with Singe was the bug fix I wanted to see as well. So right now, Singe causes this weird bug where if the Singe is about to run to your units will just freeze. They won't move, and they're waiting for Singe to run up to them so they can start attacking. And they'll start doing this from like when Singe is literally in the middle of the board, walking to the edge of the board. It happens consistently enough for me to actually be mad about it. So that's like the one bug fix I hope to see. Oh god, I really hope that's not a feature. But I know Singe is a cool, unique unit. I like that he's in the game, but man, some of the stuff that he does, like sometimes dragging your units into like the worst positions or having bugs like that, it's pretty annoying. Aside from that, the patch is really good. I think if the patch just had PD change, I'd be happy. Has PD change, has Morello fix. They nerfed Annie. They buffed a lot of the units I think that needed to be buffed. They nerfed a lot of tier 3/1 cost units. They buffed Nico and Yasuo. The only thing and they added a Mumu, which I think is really good. Yeah, pretty happy with everything. They try to make a little bit 6 more synergies work. I think it's hard to buff too much in this patch. And the reasoning is because PD ends up crushing a lot of the viable comps. So I think at some point you could run 6 assassins. And a lot of the reason you can't right now is because your best assassin carry in the game, Kha'Zix, can't be played. And the value of Jewel Gauntlet and IE can't even be built on the current patch. And so now, like, there's so many things that you don't know how strong they are because of PD kind of pushes them out, that like the game dramatically changes when PD changes. Like to the point where we're probably playing like the meta's going to shift a lot in the next couple of days. Not only due to like the Light Shadow and the Mumu stuff, but also because like, yeah, just having no PD means in my head, I'm already thinking we're back to Kha'Zix, baby. Let's go. Like I'm ready to start shoving assassins in because we'll be able to get a lot. Overall, patch wasn't bad. I saw a lot of what I wanted to see, and I'm hoping there's still some inherent problems with the game, but not something that can be solved, I don't think, as a unit by unit basis. I didn't see the Yorick nerf that I was hoping to see, but I did see a lot of buffs to other units that I wanted, so not bad.